Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast. Hi, I'm Mac Pierre, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I am Natalia Olowska, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I'm Tye Bourdony, full-time mediator, primary mediation trainer, and an arbitrator as well.
And we are glad to meet with you all again, also with our listeners, and on the topic mediating family law issues without attorneys. This is what all of us do, and this is what we want to discuss with you to show whether you is it possible to bring your family issues into mediation, even if you don't have a lawyer. So this is how we would like to start. And so is it possible at all going to mediate family issues and being there without having a prior legal advice and without having an attorney by your side throughout the mediation? What do you think?
It's a great question. And before anything, I think it's important to say that everything that we're saying here really shouldn't be taken as legal advice. I think everybody would benefit from speaking with an attorney, a licensed family attorney in the area that you live in. Law can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right? From state to state, from country to country. And I think we're talking from our experience, in this regard, and where pro se's are concerned. So it's folks who don't have lawyers, sometimes those are great mediations because, lawyers can get in the way sometimes. I do not say that lightly. And that is a very general statement. Most attorneys really do a wonderful, 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 great job. And people really do, at the very least, I always believe, need the advice of an attorney, right? You can hire an attorney just for mediation. You can speak with someone and then go to mediation. But sometimes attorneys fight too much. And so sometimes that presents other barriers. But hey, the point is really it's case by case. But whether or not people can mediate their family issues without attorneys and without seeking legal advice, those are actually two different things. Sure, you can mediate without an attorney. Yes, absolutely. Can you mediate without legal advice? You can, but it presents additional issues. I would tell you the folks who have asked appropriate questions and have gotten background information with respect to what the law says, what they're entitled to, and then come to mediation, they're able to make really, hopefully, good, informed decisions, whereas those who don't, everyone's emotional. With advice, without advice, with attorneys, everyone is emotional. So it's tough to see straight. And then if you haven't spoken to someone, if you don't know what the law says about equitable distribution or about child support or about alimony, then sometimes, so everyone always says, well, but my cousin's sister's aunt had a mediation. And I always tell them, they got divorced and they didn't have to pay that amount in child support, or they didn't have to. And I have to tell them every case is absolutely different. It is specific to what's going on in that case. It's specific to so many things. And that's why it's important to speak with someone. Now, with that said, regardless, you will get folks who have not spoken to attorneys. And so it just makes it more challenging, for the mediator, right? So then the more skilled you are, so we can't give legal advice. We have to remain neutral the entire time. But then how do you tell parties about an issue when they either have preconceptions or they have no idea? So, mediators are always walking the line, the tightrope between, being ethical, not giving legal advice, staying neutral, but still being able to appropriately reality check with folks and give them the right kind of insight that isn't advice, but rather, so I like to say it's not what you say, but how you say what you say. So if I ask questions the right way, like the Socratic method, so to speak, right, I can help folks better understand the issue. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes the folks still just don't get it, right? And then I think the mediator has to become comfortable with a few things as well. We have to be comfortable letting people either make bad decisions, right? It's not our mediation, it is theirs. Equitable is a subjective, right? The mediator can't go into it thinking equitable. Equitable is not up to me, it's up to the parties. If they want to give the farm away and they're not being, and their arm's not being twisted, I'm going to let them give the farm away, right? So it's best for them to get legal advice. It's best to have a good, solid understanding as best you can, but it just doesn't happen all the time. So it's just more challenging for the mediator. It can still be done, but if they can't come to agreement, I'm going to reserve on those issues, and then they're going to trial, right? And then then you should consider talking to somebody about this issue, or sometimes we can get as much done as we can get done, but then there's an issue or three or what have you that they can't. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, okay, what we should do now is consider, let's continue this. Let's come back after you've had a chance to speak to someone, and then come back. And then and most times they come back and they haven't spoken to someone again, but sometimes they do. And when they do, then we can typically, move forward. Or I just reserve, and then they can let the judge decide. So the answer is yes and yes. And, case by case, it can be done. It can be done.
So for anybody who's listening or watching who's new, one of the themes that we've always had on this channel is to educate pro se's, people who don't have lawyers, just because we think that there's millions of people out there who are Googling the law and who are trying to figure things out themselves. And you can. I mean, there's many cases that are ripe for that. But we just want to empower folks who don't have attorneys to try to do this themselves. And you can certainly get the help of a mediator like us if you're interested. Now, with that being said, not every type of divorce case can be resolved at mediation. I've always said that whether you have a lawyer or not, if you come to a mediation for a divorce, there's probably two things you're discussing, right? You're having a fight over property, or you're having a fight over the children. And so property and kids, exactly, or both. Property and kids tend to just be the two focus areas. Yeah. So sometimes those are so complicated and complex, a mediator will do wonders and will get both resolved at that session or two sessions, okay, after you recess. Other times, however, that case might need to go to trial. So I just wanted to pick both of your brains about what kind of cases can or be taken care of at mediation or might not be.
Natalia, why don't you go first?
Yes, thank you so much. My European, actually mainly Polish experience in mediation shows that practically almost all cases can be mediated. And this is also because some of the cases, some of even the judges, when they have a very difficult case to decide, so you are already with your family law issue in the court, the judge orders you to go to mediation. Sometimes this is like a last chance that they give you before they decide, without your will, without your input, without your actual influence, what's going to be decided over your kids. So you're getting this last chance, and this can be in every single complicated case you can imagine. That can be a paternity case, custody case, that can be a difficult divorce, which is even more complicated here in Poland because we have fault-based divorces. So quite a lot of stress in the divorce case goes also to the actual argument between the spouses themselves, between themselves, whom to blame for the breach of the marriage. And anything else, like also child support. This is a very important issue where you can really, in mediation, taking advantage of the fact that it is all being subject to confidentiality. You can disclose certain aspects, either of your finances that you would be afraid to tell in the court even. All covered by the secrecy rules, enabling you and enhancing the agreement that can then be followed by a court ruling or just by mediated settlement agreement that will be then approved by the court.
That's a great way of saying it, I think. I think one of the things that I liked best about what you said was you can mediate almost any case. You can. And I would say it's case by case. There are a few issues in my jurisdiction in Central Florida and Florida. For instance, if the Department of Revenue is involved, so typically they're the ones who are going to be taking care of the child support issue then, right? So that's when I would tell the parties, look, I can do everything except, your child support issue, just because the Department of Revenue is going to have the last say. And most likely in that case, so the state has an interest in that child support because they're either paying, they're paying some benefit from the state to the child. And so then they have, that for that reason, maybe that part of it is not going to be acceptable. And then, something else easiest would be high conflict cases. You can try. Absolutely, you can try. But sometimes, I was in one yesterday. And to be quite honest with you, an experienced mediator, once I'm spending some time with you, I like to let the party speak, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to get a sense, okay, I think we can make some leeway here. Maybe we can, or I'm going to get a sense, wow, they're really entrenched and they need something else, beforehand. And so I would tell you, just yesterday, I actually, and I was mentioning this to Natalia earlier, I kind of, I found it interesting in an introspective way that now, more than a decade, doing this, I'm at the place where I'm okay then telling folks, look, I don't know that I can help you today. My sense is you might need a parenting coordinator or a guardian ad litem. And I do find that to be appropriate. And so an experienced, mediator is going to be able to help the flow of the case as well. Maybe we can come back later, but it is case by case, isn't it? Is the fact of the matter. And then there's something else that I wanted to say, and that is I also think it's really important. So your mediated agreement, right? The thing that's great about a mediated agreement is that the mediator who has experience can know to ask certain questions in certain scenarios based on what you see, and get it down on paper. And so the more detailed, for me, a very detailed parenting plan or marital settlement agreement is important, rather than one that is not, one that just outlines things. There are some cases where you can outline things, right? Those cases where the parties are getting along very, very well. They're handling everything, and your sense is, wow, I wish everybody was like these folks. I'm less worried about them. But they don't come often enough for them, but when you have cases where they can argue about the color of the sky, I'm going to be very, very specific with respect to their agreement. And I like to tell them, look, so you could take this parenting agreement, and mine are thick. If you do a parenting plan with me, it's going to be 8, 9, 10 pages. I'm going to cover everything, and I'm going to cover it well. And I tell them, you can take this and put it in a drawer and close that drawer. And if you agree, you can do whatever you want, so long as you agree. But when you don't agree, take that parenting plan out, and it should tell you. And the reason we want to have a very detailed plan is because if it's not, what's going to happen is they're probably going to be back because they're going to argue about something that you didn't put in there. So I just, I'm weird about that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you so much. And my question to you both as mediators, mediating family law issues, particularly divorce. If there is a pro se mediation come to you, what would you want your pro se party to be aware of? How would you like them to prepare themselves when they come to your mediation?
Mac, what are your thoughts?
Wow. So I'm still a little surprised by just how many people, even with lawyers, come to mediation completely unprepared. Right? We find ourselves,
and lawyers sometimes, but
exactly.
not typically.
Exactly. We find ourselves around the table, virtual table, some these days, basically asking, wait a minute, no discovery was done. Okay, so there's no inventory, there's no spreadsheet. All right, guys, could you guys? And so we spent all this time then calculating stuff, trying to figure out, like, if people just came prepared with a list of assets and debts, I mean, that would save us so much time. So
maybe a financial affidavit would be nice too.
Exactly. So I don't know. I don't even need things to be sworn. I just need something to be listed down so we can start from there. A lot of times that's the biggest time waster. So I guess to answer the question, what would I want? I would want pro se people, or even if they have lawyers, is to just come prepared. Usually the mediator is going to send you a letter ahead of time that's going to say this exactly what you need to bring to mediation. I just wonder why folks only read the part about payment and they skip the rest. It seems to me, and so just read the whole entire letter so that you can know what the mediator wants. It's gonna make your life so much
Sometimes they
easier.
don't even read about the payment, and this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And Tye, what about you? What would you desire your party, your pro se party,
if I could
to come
build
to
my
mediation
pro se
with? Yes.
party? I would tell you there's also different kinds of pro ses. So when I was in this courthouse, when I was a staff mediator, I would see the parties that didn't have attorneys first because I was the staff mediator. And so typically those, they filed, well, here's the thing. None of them know what's going on. Why would they? Why should they? Why would they want to? Right. And so they're kind of oblivious to it. And just because it's like Greek to them, and well, it should be. Right. And so you have those folks who have filed and they're kind of just feeling around in the dissolution dark, with the courthouse, hoping somebody is going to tell them, what to do. And so they come to you, and typically, even if they have done the things, they haven't done them right, and they still maybe don't know, or they filled it out wrong. And then you have parties who will, I have folks who will contact me for pre-suit mediations. Now they're a different breed because they have done some kind, at least one of them probably has done some kind of research, and they've been told, and then so they've looked into it a little bit. So a lot of times when I get calls, it's because they're looking for it, they kind of understand it, and more often-ish than not, they're a little more prepared, or at least one of them is a little more prepared. One of the one who maybe wants it, or just the more adult of the two. So they're two different kind of people. But what would I like? What's nice is maybe it didn't work out for them, but they can do what they need to do for the benefit of the child. Those are a pleasure sometimes because I can help them, but it's just every case is so darn different. So I could say, "Ooh, I hate when this happens," and I don't like when this happens. But for the most part, I want them to be fully aware and understand what they're doing, and not come thinking that, I'm going to tell them what so I spend a lot of time making sure that they are in complete agreement to mediate, and that they know that they can speak with someone. I would love them, actually, what I would like, that they all speak with someone and do have some kind of background with respect to what the law is in their case, because then they can negotiate, because then they can try and figure it out. Whereas spending time, sometimes you just have to spend time with them. And I would tell you, if they want to save money, come prepared. Because if you come prepared, we can get through this faster. If you don't come prepared, it's going to take you. And let's be honest, I'm a private mediator. So, if we can do it in 3 or 4 hours, now that's fast, right? But if I can do it in 5 or 6 because you're prepared, as opposed to 2 sessions or a 7 or 8 hour mediation. The other thing is, I would love when attorneys come, when they come with an agreement prepared. That saves a lot of time too. When I stress when I'm typing the agreement. That's when I stress, because everybody's waiting for you. So again, I'm all over the place on that one, but prepared. Yeah, I would agree. Come prepared and come with advice.
So
if
only
possible.
a couple minutes left. And so I just, throw this one in there. We've been touching on this similar topic with Fran Brockstein when we're doing her series. And one of the things that we had discussed last week is there's lots of patterns that we see over the years when you do the same kind of cases over and over and over again. But in family mediations, there's a statement that we have to make, and that is that the mediation session is not a therapy session. Okay. What do you think about that statement, Tye?
But we are therapists. Let's be honest. It's not a therapy session, but somehow it turns into one, right? It just does. They are at some of the most emotional states in their lives, or at the very least within the last year. The divorce is one of the things that can be devastating on a family, on individuals. Some people are, I always will say, I'm really sorry you're going through this. And most people will say, thank you. But once in a while I'm like, well, don't be sorry. I'm happy. I'm great. And so, it is case by case, but when they are quite emotional, and tears, you see them all the time. Once in a while, they're crocodile tears, but a lot of times they're really emotional. And so when they're really emotional, our emotional intelligence has to be really dialed up high. And yeah, I do think I'm a therapist, you know, because in a way, you know, I guess I'm practicing unlicensed therapy, I suppose, but I have to help them get through it. And if I do in such a way that I can help them feel better, they're going to trust me, they're going to trust the process, and they're going to let me help them, because I hear you, I understand, I see what you're going, I'm sorry. Just that alone, and listening, it is therapy. People need to talk and let it out, and then they can kind of move forward. If they think, Tye gets me, Natalia's hearing me, Mac understands what I'm going. We didn't say that, but because I'm actively listening, because I'm giving them emotional intelligence, because I'm listening really well, they get that sense. Plus, I'm a real touchy-feely kind of guy.
Yes, no, thank you, Tye. It's certainly good advice for all of us to always have a list of therapists ready to go, so that
Sure.
we can refer them out. Because
Family therapists too, absolutely.
exactly. Because folks are going through all sorts of things. As a
Also,
mediator, you need to have a ready list of attorney referrals,
that's right.
therapists, accountants
It's
sometimes,
a great point.
right? And just have those in your
Yeah.
Rolodex ready to go.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mac, really quick, if I may. I actually used to have a drawer in the courthouse. It just turned into the drawer, and it was resources. And literally within my county, and any one of it, because over 7 years, I'm like, oh man, I didn't have something for that. I'd get something and I'd put it in there. And before you knew it, I was the guy who was filling in the pamphlets on the second floor, that was given to me, by the Legal Aid Society. And I had a whole bunch of them. It's so true. And contacts for, family therapists, they come in handy.
Yeah.
And we always want to give 3 out, right? We always want to give at least
exactly.
3 out.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Great point.
Yes. All right.
So thank you so much, both of you, for your insightful thoughts, and thank you for being with us today. Also, for the listeners and viewers, please remember that you can catch this discussion or any previous or future shows on the InstantMediations.com website or on the Instant Mediations app, which we absolutely enhance you to download and enjoy, where you can also, being a pro se without a lawyer, find interesting tips that can really help you when dealing with your family law issues. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you.